If you got an old handheld soldering iron that's broken or missing its tip like this, don't rush to throw it away. Take a moment to check its current condition first. See if it still heats up before you start fixing anything. If it does heat properly, then you can simply get yourself a new tip. The handheld soldering iron I've got here really does seem to be broken. There's no heat coming from it at all. But if you're dealing with the same situation and don't know how to fix it, don't worry, because I've come up with an idea. First, I'll take this handheld soldering iron apart piece by piece, removing any parts that won't fit into this new recycling project. Now don't feel discouraged hearing that, because with newer soldering irons, the heat is usually quite strong and can easily damage small metal pieces when you try to join them. This recycled version, on the other hand, is meant to solve that problem. The heat may not be as intense, but it's controlled enough to keep those small metal parts from getting damaged during soldering. After removing the unnecessary parts, we'll replace them with other components that better suit the project. And from this basket full of old spark plugs, I'll pick out a suitable one and reuse it as a connector between the heating body and the soldering tip. The electrical wire I'm using to connect the spark plug to the power source has an outer insulating layer, and inside it is a core made up of many tightly twisted copper strands. This type of wire is flexible, carries current efficiently, and is less likely to break during use, making a reliable choice for this setup. To keep things safe during use, I'll wrap the connection between the spark plug and the wire with electrical tape. Maybe no one has ever told you this little secret. Repurposing the carbon core from an AA battery into a homemade soldering tip is surprisingly effective. This material handles heat well, heats up quickly, and gives you just the right amount of control for working on small, delicate metal parts. What makes it even more interesting is how it pairs with the spark plug as a connector. The structure of the spark plug helps transfer and stabilize the heat before it reaches the tip. As a result, the heat isn't too intense or uneven. Instead, it's moderated and more consistent, which makes it much easier to work without damaging smaller components. Instead of letting an old battery go to waste, Turning its carbon core into a useful tool like this feels both practical and surprisingly effective for light soldering tasks. Here's a terminal block connector. I'm going to take out one of the metal inserts inside and use it as an intermediate piece to connect the threaded end of the spark plug to the homemade soldering tip. Next, I prepared a short piece of wire to bridge the threaded tip of the spark plug to its threaded body. This simple bypass method has a few real advantages. By creating a direct connection, the electrical path becomes shorter and more stable, which helps reduce resistance and limits energy loss along the way. As a result, the current flows more consistently, and the heat generated is steadier instead of fluctuating. Another benefit is a quicker response. Heat builds up faster at the working end without needing to pass through unnecessary sections. At the same time, this setup gives better control over the heat level, keeping it moderate and suitable for handling smaller metal parts without the risk of overheating or damage. With the remaining end of this wire, I'll attach an additional metal washer to make it easier to connect to the power source. And I'm not stopping there. I've also made another connector for the negative terminal of the power source. It's built from a short piece of wire. One end is attached to a metal washer for an easy connection to the power supply, while the other end is fitted with an alligator clip, making it simple to clamp onto the metal piece you're working on. The power source I'm using for this setup is a common battery pack, designed for tools like drills, cutters, and grinders. What I like about it is that it delivers a steady, well-balanced output, not too strong, not too weak, so it's easy to work with. That's exactly why I keep coming back to it for these kinds of recycling projects. And that's it. We've got it working. Now, let's put it to the test and see how well it performs. And just like that, something that looked ready for the trash has found its way back into use. I've always felt that working with your hands isn't just about fixing things. It's about seeing potential where others might not bother to look. This little project is a good reminder of that. We didn't use anything fancy, just a few old parts, a bit of time, and some patience to bring it all together. What matters here isn't just a final tool, but the process behind it, taking things apart, understanding how they work, and then putting them back together in a new way. That's where the real value sits. And once you get used to thinking like that, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere, even in things you once thought were useless. So next time you come across something broken, don't be too quick to throw it away. Slow down for a moment, take a closer look, and ask yourself what else it could become. You might not always get it right on the first try, but that's part of the fun. Each attempt teaches you something new. And who knows, the next project you pick up might turn out even better than this one. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next build.